Do you hear that? No? That's because it is very quiet in my house. My husband took all 3 kids out to breakfast because we are getting hit with a lot of snow, apparently, this weekend. And I'm just getting ahead of very likely snow days next week and just thinking about the things to catch up on. Obviously, I am dreaming about Disney World, and I would love to finally have some sun and warmth on my face. But I really wanted to hear from you as a listener and what you want to chat about. So in my broadcast channel, I shared a poll on what to chat about next, and you voted very fittingly about rest days, meaning non-park days at Disney World, what to actually do with them, how to plan them without overthinking it, and why they can end up being some of your favorite days of the trip. So these questions came straight from my Instagram broadcast channel, which I will leave a link in the show notes if you aren't already in there. So we're talking like real scenarios of what people are struggling with and just what to do on a day that you don't have a park ticket for one of the 4 Disney World parks. Okay, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of 3, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. So my friend Melissa asked for new ideas that she loves a good rest day. And I hope that in this episode we'll do exactly that, because we really do want to rest on our rest days, i.e. we don't want to do too much. So let's first talk about what a quote rest day even is. So this is really just referred to a day that you are not going into the parks. Let's say you have a week-long vacation. If you're one of my members, you know that I recommend park, park, rest, park, park, which ends up being perfect for a 7-day trip. You have your 2 travel days, 1 day in each park, and then a rest in the middle. And there are a lot of different scenarios of where your rest day falls, but this usually is not a day that you're traveling. This is like a full 24 hours, kind of smack dab in the middle of your trip, hopefully, of just not being able to scan into a park. Maybe you did it intentionally. Maybe you just didn't want to pay for a ticket that day. Whatever it is, this is a day that you are in Disney World, you are on Disney property, staying at a Disney resort, and you are not going into the park. What do you do? Heather asked, what does your perfect/ideal rest day look like? And this has really changed a lot over the years, and I don't think I see it ever being exactly the same for the rest of my life. And I'll be honest, like in the past, we haven't really taken true rest days because we usually have annual passes, meaning doesn't feel like it's costing us any more money to go into the park every single day that we're there. Either it's a travel day, if we're there for 8 days, it doesn't matter because we've already paid for that annual pass, which I understand is not free, but you get what I'm saying. So ideally, and when I think of a rest day, and I still do build these in even when we have annual passes, it could be even like a late start. Maybe we're doing something in the evening. This could be a scenario that comes up a lot this year because Disney had a get 4-day ticket, get 2 days free. So you could be used to maybe going for 4 days and you're like, what am I going to do for 6 park days? I would still treat one of the days in the middle as a rest day in terms of you are resting. So you're catching up on sleep and you are letting your body relax for a little bit before going into the second tail of the trip. Because I think it almost gets more overwhelming because when people talk about rest days or their off days, They think about you can go to Disney Springs, you can go mini golfing, you can go to a water park. I don't really think of that as a rest day, to be honest. I don't like mini golfing. You can certainly do that if that's your favorite thing. Maybe your kids are a little older and you get bored really easily, then that could be a great option. For me, it's kind of like a little bit of a torturous experience for me. Maybe I'm not patient enough. If I could spend a day at the spa. Maybe I certainly would. But when you have kids, that can get hard. So the perfect rest day to me isn't to do like more things in Disney. It's really to have that opportunity to rest. And that usually looks like catching up on sleep. And for this, it's kind of in the morning and in the evening. Even if the kids are early risers, there is still a different feeling of going to bed and just not having an alarm set. Like, you don't have to wake the kids up if they do sleep in. If they do wake up early, you're not in a rush to get to the parks. You got nowhere to be. That is like a very big sign of a rest day to me, is like, I'm not setting my alarm. Sounds so wonderful. Because we don't get to do that a lot. And I'm going to talk about this more, but there are other things that I really like to take advantage of not just a rest day, but also like a reset day, which I'm going to talk about more towards the end of the episode. Crystal asked, what is the best vacation memory that had nothing to do with theme parks and was more focused on a rest day? So like I mentioned, we don't do a ton of like true rest days because we usually have annual passes. So in my mind, when I think about this, it immediately went to a trip where the parks closed for a hurricane. And I do admittedly think I'm cheating a little bit with this answer, but it is what my mind went to because I was forced to stay in the room. Like, the park was closed. Disney Springs was closed. Mini golf was closed. It was raining, obviously. So I truly needed to just sit in the room. Like, we needed to stay in the resort. And I will tell you that during nap time, we had a 1-bedroom and I was in the main bedroom area with the baby kind of sleeping in the bathroom. If you know, you know. And I made some tea. I threw my phone across the room and I just did nothing. I think I maybe watched Seinfeld, and it was really my favorite memory. And I think of why it was so special is that I just didn't miss going into the park. I didn't think about what I was missing. And I know it had nothing to do with my kids, or like it was a rest day and something magical happened and a cast member did this or a character did that, but it was very relaxing. And for whatever reason on that day, it was exactly what I needed. But then other than that, if I'm not being selfish and I am thinking about my children, on any chill day or a day that we're getting a late start or maybe an early bedtime even, I just love watching our kids play on the grass, any grass. I have memories of this, very vivid memories of all 3 of my kids individually, where you kind of just stand off to the side with your husband and just kind of all at your little creations that you've made. We've done this at Boardwalk. We've done this at Riviera, Grand Floridian before dinner, the Polynesian, just kids kind of frolicking. And then there's other kids that are also frolicking together, and they make friends so fast. You actually feel bad when you like have to leave. And it's just really sweet. That's probably my favorite thing to do as a family, is just find a patch of grass. I'm remembering now at Caribbean Beach, we did that after dinner, and they found some kids to play with and they were racing, and it was just really sweet. And I was able to sit down, which is wonderful. Danielle asked, if you were going to Disney and not going into a park or only doing one park day, what resort would you choose? So I'm sorry if I'm translating this wrong, but when I read this, I think what she's asking is like, what resort would you choose to stay at? Not like, what resort would you visit that day, I believe. But really, I guess it doesn't matter because the answer for either is the same. If I knew I was going to have a lot of rest time, a lot of resort time, I would book the Boardwalk, and I know that that is my answer for everything. But besides the fact that I love it and it's my favorite, it just has the most to do on the property itself, because you're not just getting the Boardwalk. You have the beach club right next door. You have the yacht club right next door. Plus you have Swan and Dolphin too. So including all of the restaurants for each of those resorts, all of the shopping for each of those resorts. Then it also has like a cool bar. You can get a drink at the bar. You could just take a boat ride. You would have access to the Skyliner station if you enjoy the Skyliner and wanted to go for a ride over to Riviera. There's just a lot of different options. Whereas other resorts, you kind of are like just more sticking to that resort. The monorail resorts we'll touch on in a little bit. That would be another option. But still, if I had to choose, it would definitely be the boardwalk. Tracy said, considering a resort-only stay for a couple days over Memorial Day weekend, resort suggestions, considering Animal Kingdom Lodge or Polynesian, but open to others, and a good pool. If I was choosing between the two resorts, I would definitely go with the Polynesian over Animal Kingdom Lodge. Again, because you just have a lot more options. I think Animal Kingdom Lodge is beautiful. The splash pads / pool are really fun. I love the food there, but it just doesn't excite me imagining being like stuck there. Like you are truly there. You could walk between the two houses like Jambo House and Kidani Village, but other than that, like you're there. And while I mentioned the boardwalk in that last answer for like staying at the resort being a good option, I will mention that if your priority is a pool, the boardwalk kind of has like a lackluster pool. It's not the most exciting. Polynesian has a really fun pool, Painkillers, the cocktail at the pool bar, which we really like. And you do have just your options of walking on the beach. You could go over to the new Polynesian Tower. You can watch the fireworks from there. So between Animal Kingdom Lodge and Poly, hands down Poly. I actually have friends that stayed at the Polynesian and they were so overwhelmed with the thought of going into the park because they had planned 0 things that they ended up just staying at the Polynesian and like sitting at the pool and having chicken fingers. And they said they had a great time. Okay, Terry asked, staying at Disney's Boardwalk, how can we make a full day of it? Nearby must-dos, resort highlights, and fireworks views. So if it were me and I had a full day at the boardwalk, I, again, would not set my alarm. And I would book a character breakfast over at Cape May Cafe, which is at the beach club, but for a little later that I know that we're not like rushing to get there. For my family, that would be like 9:30. Then we would get some pool time. My girls are at that age. They love the pool. My middle just learned to swim. They like lots of pool time. If we got hungry, I think it would be more of like a snack pool bar situation. You know that I'm probably getting a margarita, but I'll probably get like something light for lunch, like right before we towel off and head back into the resort. And I know this is like for my family in particular and the ages of my kids, but we are going to take a nap at the room. So most likely my husband is going to take the 2 older kids over to the Boardwalk Community Hall to do some type of craft, like do some type of activity that's going on at the boardwalk. That could be even something that is happening at the pool, like they do the Mickey tie-dye t-shirts. And my girls love these t-shirts. They wear them all the time at home. Like I seriously have them for years. They're probably, I want to say it's like, is it like $20? Something around that ballpark. And it's probably the best thing that I buy in Disney because they wear them to death. So just a reminder, you can go on Disney's website, find your resort, and then under the recreation tab, it will have the full schedule now ahead of time. So you don't even have to wait until you get there to see the different activities that are going on. Like I'm looking right now at the boardwalk and it has Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 3 to 4. They are doing that Mickey tie-dye craft. So while they're doing that, I would for sure get like an afternoon coffee from Carousel Coffee. I prefer any of their espresso drinks over their like drip or cold brews, just FYI. And then I would take a lovely midday shower, get ready for dinner. This would most likely be a reservation. And again, there's so many options. So depending on my mood, we would probably end up at Trattoria Al Forno and then get ice cream next door after, let the kids play on the grass. If we wanted to watch the fireworks from afar, the bridge on your walk over to Epcot in the back towards the International Gateway is going to be your best bet. If that is not enough for you, there's so many things that you could do on the boardwalk. You could also rent the Surrey bikes. Those are like the paddle bikes. I want to say it fits 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it fits 4 people. I think it fits 4 adults, but then you can squeeze more kids on. Again, a paid experience. And I really like the gift shop at Boardwalk. It's probably one of my favorite resort gift shops. So you could spend more time being at the gift shop. You could make a reservation at Cake Bake Shop or just get a slice of cake after. Again, there's just so many things to do at the Boardwalk. You could definitely make a full day out of it. I think this person's name is Kim. It says Kim Tess. She asked, walk around Boardwalk and Disney Springs on a rest day. Your thoughts? So yeah, I totally think you could do both. It sounds doable. I wouldn't go hard at either. And I would probably, which I think is going to sound a little weird, I would do Disney Springs first and then Boardwalk. I think it's like the opposite of how most people would think about it. Because I think people think Disney Springs and think nightlife and that type of thing. But I would do that first for that reason. I'd grab like lunch over dinner or maybe like brunch if it's the weekend and you could go to Chef Art Smith's, do some shopping, get coffee with way less people around bugging me. And then I would do all the nighttime things at the Boardwalk, which I think I have talked about to death at this point. In that same line of thinking, Travel Made Savvy asked a go-to plan for Disney Springs because lately we avoid going. And I get that. I actually typically avoid Disney Springs unless my in-laws are with us because they really like the boathouse. So if and when I do go, it is definitely best to not go on a weekend. If you can, avoid like prime nighttime if you can. Of course, with like scheduling things and the way your park days and travel days, some things are beyond your control. But the nice thing about Disney Springs is I feel like you don't have to have a big plan. Like, not to sound too blunt, but I really feel like it's just a shopping center to us. Like, that's how we view it. It's beautiful and it's lovely to walk around. And there are lots of great restaurants and you can, do Cirque du Soleil or bowl and do all of these things. But when we go to Disney Springs, it is usually for a nice meal and we go to like 1 to 2 stores and head out. Something that has been on my radar is the bracelet bar of Little Words Project. If you or anyone is listening that has little girls that are into those right now, they have a Disney Springs bead bar. I think it takes about 30 minutes for a single bracelet. You have to make reservations ahead of time. But this is something that's been on my radar because my girls are getting really into, the little personalized bracelets. Now, I have admittedly not eaten at a ton of places in Disney Springs, but the 2 spots that I do really like is Chef Art Smith's Homecoming for brunch specifically, not dinner. They have brunch on Saturday and Sundays. I know that I said avoid a weekend, but if you go earlier in the day, it's really nice. And then for dinner, we really like the Boathouse. I know I've mentioned this before, but I like sitting inside for a little bit more of an upscale feel or just out on the back deck if my kids are being crazy and I don't want to disturb anybody. But we always have a good meal there. The kids love watching the amphicars go by. On one of our last trips with my in-laws, we actually got my father-in-law a ticket to ride in one of the said amphicars with my husband and 2 kids. And one of my daughters actually fell asleep. So very relaxing. If you wanted to look into that, I will leave a link in the show notes so you can learn more about it. I want to tell you about one of our easiest trips we've had, even though we had a newborn. If you've ever traveled with a baby and realized you're basically packing your entire house, the stroller, the crib, the bath stuff, all of that, this is where baby quip providers Alexa and Eric come in. They're local, parents themselves, and deliver baby gear and strollers directly to you at your Disney resort. For us, that meant a stroller that was perfect for my newborn, clean, set up, and ready to go, and a baby bath, which I didn't realize I would be so grateful for until I had it. Everything was spotless, communication was easy, pickup was just as simple as drop off, and it honestly removed so much mental load from the trip itself. It was just one less thing to think about, which is the whole point. So if you're traveling with a baby or toddler and want to pack lighter without sacrificing convenience, especially good sleep, Alexa and Eric are who I recommend. Click the link in the show notes to get started. Alexis asked about a monorail / Skyliner crawl options with kids. And it's funny, like kids really do love the Skyliner. So you could do a few things depending on where you're coming from. If you don't have access to the Skyliner, you could Uber or take a bus to Hollywood Studios and then take the Skyliner from there to Riviera. This is going to have the best food options on the Skyliner for sure. Bar Riva is great. The coffee bar there is great. There is a little gelato stand over by the pool. It's not there all day and you won't be able to go into the pool unless you're staying there, of course, but it is outside of it. So you're good. My kids loved that. They have bocce ball and a big chess game. So if I'm going to do some type of Skyliner crawl, it is definitely going to include Riviera, and then I would probably end at the boardwalk. And I'm skipping the monorail part of that question because Kelsey asked for must-dos and a laid-back way to enjoy the monorail loop resorts on a rest day. Plan is to have a late breakfast at Ohana that morning. Yeah, so if you're starting at Ohana at the Polynesian, I would do the Contemporary as kind of like the midday resort pop-in, and then I would end at Grand Floridian. So if we're at the Polynesian, we have Ohana. I'm definitely grabbing a coffee from, not Kona Cafe, but like the Kona Coffee Bar and just get a coffee to go for the long commute on the monorail to the Contemporary. And then I would use the Contemporary as more of like do some shopping, let the kids kind of get their wiggles out. If you are getting hungry, you could mobile order from Contempo Cafe. So if you wanted to make that a little bit longer instead of doing the monorail, you could also take the boat from the Polynesian to Magic Kingdom just for like a nice boat ride and then hop on the monorail to the Contemporary. Either way works. And then you're ending at Grand Floridian. I think this would be so fun at night. Just let the kids run around, again, the grass outside, explore kind of the grounds there, and then get a nicer dinner. So my favorite reservation there would be Citricos. I've had so many of my favorite meals at Citricos, and it does feel like a luxury dining experience. And then the most laid back thing to do is just to head back to wherever you're staying and get an early bedtime. I was kind of assuming that you're staying at Polynesian because you said Ohana. And if you wanted to stay up, I would put the kids in their PJs and you could watch the fireworks back at Polynesian maybe, if that's where you're staying. Britt asked about an ideal rest day working around a midday nap. So if I had to do like a formula of a perfect rest day for me, it would be a late morning character breakfast, then the pool / nap, depending on the ages of my kids and what's going on. But this is key. I am going to take a shower, like a middle of the day shower. I'm going to bathe my kids in the middle of the day, get our hair all nice and do all those things and really like reset everything before venturing out to like a nice dinner. I feel like this isn't really mentioned a lot about a rest day, but I want to take advantage that this is halfway through my trip. Like this is a rest day. So if you think of it as a reset day, because now you've done most likely like 2, maybe 3 park days, you know by now at this point, even if you've never been to Disney, you're getting a read on if your kids are into the characters or not. Maybe you did a character meal in the first half of the trip and they absolutely hated it. Or vice versa. Maybe they keep surprising you and they're asking to meet all of these characters and you think that they wouldn't be into it. You know how the kids have been on rides, the dark ones, the fast ones. You know how long they've been able to sit still and eat a meal. So I like to sit my booty down in bed, preferably. And, you know, you can start canceling dining reservations, make new dining reservations. You can modify your lightning lanes to completely different rides. I would check the weather for the next few days because now it's going to be even more accurate and kind of have a game plan. Just do a little light housekeeping on the actual trip and look at your future plans and tweak them if you need to. So that's a little light housekeeping on the trip, but also my room. I want to reset my room by 2-3 days in, it's getting a little messy. Clothes in the drawers are starting to get all mixed in together. So I want to clean out the stroller, get all the crumbs and all the things out of the stroller, kind of repack our things, maybe repack my park bag with, fresh Band-Aids or crayons or whatever I need to do. Really don't forget to take advantage of that downtime and get yourself rested and ready and prepared for the next leg of the trip. If I have a washer and dryer, or if this is a longer trip, I'm going to take advantage of this to do a load of laundry. And the most important thing, ideally, is to catch up on sleep, like I have mentioned. Shelly asked, what do my kids love to do on rest days? So I asked them. I literally asked them last night. And I think the thing that they did not mention that I know that they enjoy is to not be woken up. I think they like just waking up on their own and not being disturbed with, even if it's just me waking up before them and starting to make some noise or anything. I just stay in bed until one of the kids gets me. And I do think that that is something that they really love. Of course, they didn't mention that though. They said that they like to shop. They said that they like the pool. They said that they would just be at the pool all day, go down the slides, make tie-dye t-shirts, get a slushie or some type of smoothie situation from the pool bar. And then I thought it was really sweet, that story my oldest said to play on the grass. I thought, oh, I said that too. That's it for today's Q&A. And I think after saying all of this and seeing your questions, I think my biggest tip is to not overthink a rest day, because the point is for it to be restful. So I hope this helped reframe that a little bit. If you want help planning your trip in a way that actually leaves room for days that look like this, you can join Laid Back Magic at laidbackmagic.com to learn where to start before anything else gets booked. If you've submitted one of these questions, thank you. I'll be sure to do more listener Q&As like this. And I will see you next Monday, where we are chatting all about the Disney dining plan. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.